What do you know about being an astronaut? For that matter, what do you know about being the commander of the International Space Station? Yeah, sure, there's been movies about that stuff, and there's been books, but how often have you checked in on an intimate one-on-one conversation covering all of this? Well, that's exactly what I've got lined up for you. My name is Christopher Schoenwald, podcaster, entrepreneur, educator, coming at you from the land of the rising sun, Japan. And yeah, Life as this is a program aimed at uncovering details, uncovering insights for you so you can decide whether or not some of these careers could be for you. And again, today I've got a great one lined up, so let's get into it. So I would like to start it by saying this is the highlight section of the actual podcast that I run, Life as a, which of course you can find anywhere you access your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, wherever it might be. Just search Life as a ... All right. Well, this episode, Terry Virts, retired U.S. Air Force test fighter pilot, former NASA astronaut, also former commander of the International Space Station. Now, we all know roughly what space is about, again, from film, television, so on and so forth. But I want to kind of go deeper than that, and I want to immerse myself in this conversation that much more. And there was a moment early on where Terry was just sharing his experiences and just listening to him, looking at the way he was describing it. It really struck me of what a unique experience this must be. So I'd like to share that moment with you right here. Have a look.
The first thing is, I can remember this moment where it just like hit me that I'm in outer space and my planet's over there. I mean, that's a pretty powerful moment.
Now, I don't know about you, but I have these visions in my head of just like how difficult it must be to be flying a space shuttle. But the way Terry explains it, it kind of took it to this whole different level. So let me share that with you as well.
When I was an F-16 pilot, I remember I had this one mission in Korea. I was leading a 4-ship. There was 4 jets. I was the lead. It was low altitude at night. At the time, we had this system that we flew at low altitude at night. And we had bad enemy bandits pretending to be MiG-29s.
Yeah.
And we landed. I remember thinking, that's as busy as a human being can be. I'm flying my jet. Their ground is right there. It's nighttime. I got to keep track of my 4 guys. I got to keep track of these MiGs coming in. We got to put laser guided bombs on the target. That was the most busy that a human being could be in my brain. And then I got to NASA and flew the shuttle. And during ascent, especially as a pilot and the commander, there's so much going on.
As far as some of the other jobs and responsibilities of an astronaut, any idea what they might be? I mean, surely they're not in space 24/7, right? Well, that is one of the other questions that I had for him, and this is what he had to say.
The majority of your time as an astronaut is not in space. It's on the ground, either training or doing other jobs, helping NASA in lots of different ways, working at mission control, working on the new rockets we have coming up, or there's a lot of ground jobs you have. So probably the biggest misconception is that all you do is fly in space, and that's not. We wish that's what it was, but that's not what it is.
So there you go. Those are some of the jobs that you're doing as an astronaut on the ground while you're not in space. But of course, I still want to know about some of the things that you're involved with while you are floating around the Earth. Are they accurate? Some of the depictions that we see on television of what these astronauts are doing. So this is what Terry had to say about that.
Every day you're doing different stuff. You're doing maintenance on mechanical things. You're doing science experiments. Some days you're unloading or loading cargo ships, which is a huge job. Some days you're doing spacewalks. Some days you're doing interviews, media interviews, getting ready to go back to Earth, every day, exercise every day, medical procedures on yourself. So every day was something different. And so if you're the kind of person that likes to work on the accounts receivable spreadsheet at your office all day, every day, then astronaut's not the job for you.
Listeners of my program know that I like to ask questions that aim to uncover the impact of the job as far as what it has on a person's life. How does it change your views? How does it affect you? So I have several of those questions in the full length conversation. You can go check that out, shameless plug. But beyond that, here's one of those questions.
What strikes me is that you certainly have missions, you have different experiments, you have reasons for being there, obviously.
Right.
And you're working with these teams of people that are coming from different cultures, that you just mentioned, different ethnicities, backgrounds, all these different things. And in a way, say that time within an International Space Station, it's almost a microcosm of how life should be, perhaps, here on Earth, whether it's within an organization, a business, a school, whatever it might be. I'd be curious to hear, your perspectives on that, and maybe what you tell others about that.
Yeah. Well, I've been speaking, like I put bread on the table by doing public speaking. And for the last 5, 6, 7 years since I left NASA, one of my lessons was I talked about this incident we had with an ammonia leak. In fact, the National Geographic book I wrote, View from Above, chapter 5, the whole main chapter was about this ammonia leak. Ammonia is a coolant fluid, kind of like your car radiator has cooling fluid, and it leaked, which is a deadly thing. It actually kills the space station. We thought the station was done, and the Russians said, "Hey, we're going to work together." We went down on the Russian segment and closed the hatch because they don't have ammonia down there. So it was a moment where we're working together with the Russians. They had already invaded Crimea. They had started the civil war in Donbass. It wasn't a civil war, it was an invasion. We had put sanctions on them. They had shot down that civilian airliner. Lots of terrible things were happening. And here we were in space, and they said, "Hey, come stay on our side. We're going to work together." So to me, that was an example of how people can and should work together down here on Earth.
And here's one more question that's a little bit off the beaten path, but I still thought was worth asking.
Conflict, how do you manage it? How do you deal with it? How do you be mature about it? Because again, you're up there for some of these missions that are stretching out for months on end, and you can't have divide, right? Like,
no, the way we handled it, well, I was right in the middle of this. And what we would do is we would say, "Hey guys, politics is politics. We're going to focus on trying to stay alive." Trying to not die during this ammonia leak. We're going to work together.
I have one more clip that I'd like to share with you, and this kind of goes back to how we opened up this whole video, which is basically this idea of connecting to this notion of actually being in space, and what would that be like? So Terry shared many of these moments, and here's another one where, again, I found myself immersed into it and actually imagining and picturing myself in that moment, and I could tell by the way Terry was explaining it that he was taken back to this moment as well. It was pretty powerful.
The first sunrise I saw was like overpowering. As we went into the sunrise, all the frozen liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen broke apart from the fuel lines when they closed up, and we were flying in this cloud of ice going into sunrise. And as the sun was shining on it, it was like thousands of sparkling flying things. It was insane how powerful it was. And then just looking out at the sunrise and looking down as we flew over the Alps upside down, I had to like really focus. I remember my commander Zambo was like, "Hey Terry, are you with me?" Because I was like, "Look at that, man, it's awesome." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm with you, Zambo," because I had to fly the shuttle. I had to deal with like seeing the most spectacular thing you've ever seen, and then get back to work because I'm flying the space shuttle.
Pretty powerful, right? Yeah, blows me away every single time I watch that. Anyways, I think we are drawing to a close here for this episode, but I do encourage you, while I've got your attention, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I mean, it helps so much, way more than you can know. And of course, too, I encourage you to listen to the full-length conversation that I had with Terry. We get into so much more than what I could show in this short little video, but things like, when Terry was hiring new NASA recruits, what he's looking for. And we dig deeper into some of the rewards, some of the challenges, and a ton of other things. So yeah, check that out wherever you access your podcast. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Life as a. Don't forget, I've got these weekly highlight videos dropping every single week. So keep an eye out, hit that subscribe button, and you won't miss anything. All right, until then, see ya.